A criminal empire was exposed during a confrontation that escalated from a peaceful afternoon at Mike's corner store. Unbeknownst to the 5 members of the infamous Shadow Serpents motorcycle gang, they were tripping over one of the military's deadliest combat specialists when they chose to torment the woman in the wheelchair. "Hello, Samantha." Sam Turner had lied about being a crippled soldier for a long time, covering up her real powers. It was true about the wheelchair. An explosive device in Afghanistan had severed her limbs. Their multi-million-dollar weapons trafficking enterprise was being investigated by her while she was now an undercover FBI agent, which the bikers were unaware of. In their eyes, they perceived a vulnerability. There was an objective in their sight. Like vultures circling a prey, they teased, pushed her chair, and spilled her groceries. However, a crack appeared when their commander, Hunter the Snake Wilson, placed his hands on her shoulders. It took less than 30 seconds for 3 motorcyclists to fall to the ground. One lay still, and their commander stared down the barrel of his own weapon, which was now securely grasped by Sam. As a result of one woman's relentless pursuit of justice, the biggest weapons trafficking network in the Pacific Northwest was brought to an end, causing a tremor in the criminal underground. Please identify your viewing location before we go ahead with the narrative. Click the subscribe button if you enjoyed this article. Tomorrow we have something extra special in store for you. Pine Valley, Montana's Main Street was bathed in lengthy shadows as the sun dipped below the horizon. Sam Turner moved with deliberate precision as she rolled herself carefully up the uneven path. Buried beneath her casual jacket was the trusty Sig Sauer, its comforting weight pressing against her lower back. Over her 3 years in this role, she had learned to be flexible and adjust her combat techniques accordingly. Rather than being a flaw, the wheels served as a useful accessory. Jenny's voice floated out of the cafe's entrance. "My usual, Sam." The young cafe owner's grin was sincere. She was one of the few people Sam had let herself connect with in this town. "Very much, Jenny. It has been a typical day." With an unconscious eye for possible cover, exits, and sight lines, Sam skillfully guided her chair into the door. Decades of practice crumbled. This is Agent Cooper's 3rd message for the day, and her secure phone buzzed. They were about to receive the shipment of weaponry that they had been following. The Shadow Serpents were becoming careless and self-assured. That is her purpose in portraying a wounded veteran in a sleepy Montana community. The fact that no one gave her a second glance was part of her danger. The door of the cafe rang. In the reflection of Sam's face in the window, 3 males were seen coming in. Leather jackets, patches of the Shadow Serpents. As she slowly drank her coffee, her heart rate remained constant. Although they had crossed paths before, today seemed different. It was the wrong energy. "By the way, notice who it is." The coffeehouse was filled with the sound of Hunter Wilson's voice. The local hero we all love. A toxic poison seeped out of the gang leader's fake respect. His battle instincts went into overdrive as 2 additional serpents charged in behind him, forming a pattern that Sam knew all too well. "Hello, Hunter." Her speech remained neutral as she maneuvered quickly in her wheelchair. "Coffee is available if you would like some." With the odor of cigarettes and cheap alcohol on his breath, Hunter advanced toward the source. "You know what's stumping me?" Leaning down, he invaded her personal space. "How is it that you, of all people, are always available whenever we need to conduct business? You seem to be observing us closely." Jenny remained behind the counter, her hand probably on the silent alarm, as the other customers slipped out in silence. All 5 men may be taken by Sam. It would reveal her cover even after running the scenarios 100 times. Extensive research time squandered. "This is my home, Hunter. Little Hamlet." Playing the part she'd nailed down, she shrugged. "Scarcely anywhere to go." Behind her chair, Rick and Razor Thompson, Hunter's right hand, circled. "Perhaps we could assist you in finding a different place to be, my darling. Tragedies involving individuals seated in chairs occur frequently. Under her conscious awareness, Sam's grip on her armrest strengthened. With a single swift motion, she may tear Razor's knee ligaments. Although her modified Krav Maga methods were effective when performed while seated, she refrained from fully committing due to the memory of Cooper's warning. The weaponry cache is crucial. The entire network is required. Hunter turned her around to face him by grabbing the arms of her chair. You just have today to depart from this place. Then he bared his teeth, which were crowned with gold, and grinned. We have connections at the VA, so it is very easy for benefit checks to go missing. Prior to her 3 years of undercover work, Sam would have immediately put him down. However, she had learned patience during that time. Winning the war sometimes meant losing the fight. Just the right amount of terror glimmered in her eyes. I comprehend. Despite her dislike of the shakiness in her voice, she glanced downward. If it causes any issue, please don't. Hunter stood up tall, content. Astute young woman. Listen, guys, we need to show her what real trouble looks like. As the gang's enforcer, he gave a nod to Mike, also known as Crusher Davis. Crusher extended a hand for Sam's chair while smiling. Time appeared to stand still at that very second. Everything was perfectly clear to Sam. With a proud grin on his face, Hunter saw Jenny grab for the phone. Because of the forward movement of Crusher's weight, he became exposed. Within seconds, she could put a stop to this. Rather, she resisted the need to wince when Crusher seized her chair and twisted it, sending her tumbling to the floor. Scrambled coffee splattered upon the tiles. Sam lay there, acting helpless, etching the faces of the gang into her memory as their laughter reverberated off the walls. Nobody would pay right now, though. She was bolstering their self-esteem today, making them feel invincible. The most dangerous predators, she had learnt in Afghanistan, were the most patient. Oh no, Crusher cracked a joke. Somebody clearly needs one of those "I'm down and out" buttons. It appeared difficult as Sam strained to get herself upright. Her body begged her to resist, but the mission had to be completed first. Throughout history, it had. Hunter dipped his head one final time as she retrieved herself from her seat. I thought you might recall. At some point. After that, we ceased to be polite. He politely but ostentatiously adjusted her chair. Gather round, lads. Our comrade over here has to go packing. The smell of leather and brutality lingered as the serpent strutted away. Sam hesitated to remove her mask until their motorbikes accelerated away. With her cheeks red from fury, Jenny hurried over with towels. Deepest apologies, Sam. I contacted Anderson, the chief. He is en route. Some people just can't. Jenny, it's alright. As Sam watched the bikers swerve around the curve, her voice became steady and her gaze stern. There is no better way for things to be. Once again, her phone beeped. The shipment of firearms is scheduled to take place tomorrow night, Cooper. Unbeknownst to them at the moment, the Serpents had just committed their gravest error. In their minds, they had frightened a defenseless woman. Instead, they had provided her with a plausible pretext to seem to be leaving town so that she could observe them. While she patted herself dry, Sam gave a small smile. Letting your opponent believe they had already won was sometimes the most effective weapon. As Sam rolled herself into her modest ranch house on the outskirts of Pine Valley, night had descended upon the town. For the last 3 years, she had operated out of this humble abode, which she had picked out with great care because of its excellent sight lines and several escape routes. After she had shut the door and performed her customary security checks, she could finally let her shoulders relax. The burner phone, stowed away in the arm of her chair, beeped. When Agent Cooper responded, her voice exhibited signs of tension. Verify for me, Turner, that you did not involve them. David, you can relax, I was excellent in my role. Using a faux wall panel as cover, Sam made her way to her computer setup. Just as we had anticipated, they attempted to have me expelled from town. Tomorrow night, the consignment of weapons will undoubtedly arrive. Big, military-grade gear is allegedly on its way to Mexican cartels, according to my source. Errors will not be tolerated. A knot formed in Sam's jaw. My VA benefits were endangered, David. Totally unique. I should have seen the expressions on their faces when they humiliated the defenseless veteran. Hello, Sam. A caution was in Cooper's tone. Trust me, I'm aware. We prioritize the mission. She retrieved security footage from the Dragon's estate. However, I want to instruct them in proper ways once this is concluded. Sam rolled herself to her bedroom after hanging up the phone and got herself onto her bed like a pro. She felt phantom anguish in her legs, or what were left of them. Something that brought back the memory of that fateful day in Afghanistan. All of a sudden, the memories resurfaced. As she and her squad make their way through the sands of Kandahar. Nearby, kids are playing. The glint of metal that drew her attention. Man in a window, ready to detonate an IED. It was her decision. Run out into the open and alert the children, or shoot from where she is. In reality, it was not a choice. Despite losing her legs in the blast, she managed to rescue 12 children. She had been decorated with medals and hailed as a hero by the military. After that, they had discussed a new objective with her indiscreetly. She was the ideal covert spy due to her injuries. Who would have thought that a wounded veteran could be a top agent for the Federal Bureau of Investigations? Resuming her focus, she was startled awake by an outside sound. Steps on a gravel driveway. Not casual enough, it's too planned. Just as Sam was about to get her weapon, a whistle she recognized sounded. Jenny, please. The cafe owner welcomed Sam as he opened the door and offered him meals. And information. She sped inside, locking up afterward. Nothing has shifted in the plans of the Serpents. As Jenny placed down a bag of food, she went on. At the pub, Hunter was boasting about a major delivery taking place at the defunct timber factory. Near midnight tomorrow. Samantha gave a subtle nod. From the very start, Jenny had served as her go-to person in town. Among the very handful who were privy to her real identity. By assisting me in this way, you are assuming some risk. My brother was murdered by those cretins 2 years ago. The medications they were selling were of low quality. It wasn't an overdose, according to the cops, I know better. Eyes hardened in Jenny. As an aside, someone should confront them. And while they dined, Sam's imagination ran wild with possibilities. If the Serpents thought she was about to leave town, they wouldn't be as careful, but the lumber factory had too many entrances for regular FBI teams to handle. She might benefit from that. Sam finally spoke up and asked for help tomorrow. Possibly something out of the ordinary. Jenny drew herself closer. Pick it out. You must assist me in informing people that I am departing from this town. Build a compelling case. Stow a few boxes in your vehicle. Appear to assist me with my relocation. Taking a break. Armani grinned. Keep an eye on them. We require bold, preoccupied individuals. They will believe they have triumphed and they witness me refueling. It took us a long time to prepare and tell this narrative. Therefore, please subscribe to our channel if you find it enjoyable. We are deeply grateful. We will return to the story now. Sam returned to her chair and proceeded to the concealed wall panel later that night, following Jenny's departure. Beside her laptops, a combat vest that had been modified hung behind it. For months, she had adjusted her battle armor such that she could do her job while sitting. With every strap and pocket strategically placed, you can work smarter, not harder. Once again, her phone beeped. That was Cooper's text. Arrival of teams by 2300 hours tomorrow. Get involved later. After sending a brief acknowledgement via text, Sam got to work on getting ready. She rehearsed her modified fighting techniques while checking her weapons and studying the lumber mill's plans. Unbeknownst to the Serpents, her menacing demeanor had intensified with each insult and threat she had received throughout the day. Standing tall isn't a sign of strength until you've lost both of your legs. It's all about understanding when to show vulnerability. She rolled herself up to her window and gazed at the night sky above the mountains of Montana. All would be altered by tomorrow. Either she would ruin her 3 years of undercover work or bring down a major weapons trafficking enterprise in the nation. Furthermore, her wheelchair would not serve as an excuse in the event of an accident. It would serve as her casket. The ghostly agony came back, even worse this time. As Sam shut her eyes, the scene from the hospital following the explosion flooded her mind. The physicians had assured her that she would never run, fight, or serve again. They failed to realize that her resolve had been redoubled after losing her limbs. Just like before, the Serpents had wrongly assumed that her handicap rendered her feeble. A new message had arrived on her phone, and this time the sender was unknown. There was a picture. Today, Sam was on the floor at the cafe after Crusher knocked her chair over. "Tomorrow is your final opportunity," the caption stated. In the shadows, Sam grinned icy. Even though the Serpents had no clue what was hunting them, they still believed they were hunters. They would find out tomorrow that the most dangerous predator is the one they don't anticipate. She started to review the equipment one last time. Every single piece of equipment had been fine-tuned, tried, and tested. Every part of her wheelchair served as a weapon. It was transformed from a medical tool into a fighting platform with a reinforced frame, secret compartments, and bespoke modifications. She appeared vulnerable to everybody who beheld her. The warrior was hiding in plain sight the whole time, yet no one saw. As Sam mentally made her plans, the night grew darker. Tomorrow would necessitate impeccable timing and command. Everything would come crashing down if there was even a single slip-up. Nevertheless, she had been preparing for this day ever since she had awakened in that hospital bed. The Serpents believed they had frightened her into taking flight. What they had done instead was provide her with the justification she needed to follow them around town at all times. Sam, as she got ready for bed, couldn't help but think of Jenny's brother and the countless lives that the Serpents' operation had ruined. Tomorrow, the weapons bust was only one of many topics. It centered on fairness. The point is to demonstrate that the enemy they have already defeated can sometimes be the most threatening. With the knowledge that all would change in only one day, she set her alarm. Sam Turner, the crippled veteran whom the Serpents had teased, was going to teach them a lesson about not taking their opponents too seriously. With a sky as red as blood, dawn dawned over Pine Valley. As two of Hunter's guys attempted to blend in with their surveillance of her house, Sam sipped her black coffee and watched the sunrise from her veranda. Parked in a blue pickup vehicle, they had been there since 5 a.m., convinced they were undetectable. Just starting out. On her encrypted tablet, she could see Cooper's most recent intelligence. There was enough ammunition in the package to outfit a small army. RPGs, customized assault rifles, even prototype military technology that wasn't intended to exist outside of classified locations. The unanswered question that had plagued her for months persisted. Where did the Serpents get their hands on such high-tech gear? The burner's phone went off. "We are making progress, Sam." Jenny's words were muted. "Someone met with Hunter at the diner just now. Style of suit and ties. Certainly not from the area. Under the table, they slipped something. Age range? Mid-50s. Discreet manner. Glamorous wristwatch. Seemed really concerned about the lumber mill shipment. Reached out to Hunter's son multiple times. His thoughts were racing. A picture was beginning to take shape. Jenny, please prepare the coffee pot. We will begin our plan immediately." After waiting for an hour, Sam whirled along Main Street to ensure that the Serpents Watch team could see well. She pretended to struggle with the two big boxes she had placed on her lap. Subsequently, Jenny arrived in her pickup truck, its bed already laden with furnishings. "Will this be the last load, Sam?" Everyone could hear Jenny's yell since it was loud. "I still can't believe you've decided to leave." Seeing no other option, Sam intoned her voice as one of defeat. "Not wanted here, thus I can't remain." They were excellent in their roles. A worried friend is assisting the scared veteran in leaving town. Glances of phones in use were caught by Sam. Communications in progress. The Serpents believed it and spread the news that they had expelled her. Half of the town had heard that she was departing by midday. In an effort to maintain his image, Sam made one final spin into the cafe. Quite a few people were milling about. Everyone seemed eager to bid farewell to the crippled veteran who had been a frequent sight throughout the previous 3 years. With a cup of coffee in hand, Chief Anderson made his way to her table. Importantly, he understood her real identity and was one of the few who knew what was to come. He spoke loudly enough for others to hear that he had heard you were leaving town. Subsequently, considerably less disruption. Groups are prepared. The batch of decoys that they dispatched north was intercepted by the Coast Guard. With her defeated expression intact, Sam gave a subtle nod. "There are moments when you can sense when someone is no longer welcoming you, Chief." It couldn't have been a coincidence that Hunter and Razor entered at the same moment the bell rang. They desired to observe the triumph directly. Razor seemed to be observing Sam intently, searching for any indication that this could be an act. She catered to his desires. Her hands quiver slightly as she spins around, and she flinches. It was obvious that Hunter was having fun as he strutted over. "Moving day, isn't it? Good decision." His speech barely audible as he dipped his head. However, he discreetly placed a phone on her lap to ensure that she would not become disoriented while leaving. "Hold on to it. We will verify. Some kind of monitoring gadget." This was exactly what Sam had anticipated. Her voice cracked as she pleaded. "I am departing. Precisely what you desired." "Yes, you are," Hunter said while straightening up and grinning. "Dudes, I need you to assist the woman with her laundry. We should ensure that she receives everything." By her side, Crusher and Tommy, Ghost, and Parker materialized, their seemingly helping motions betraying their true intentions. As they accompanied Jenny and her back to the house, they observed as they loaded the final few boxes. In anticipation of this, Sam had taken precautions to ensure that they would perceive her intended message. Delicately staged, clothing, photographs, and personal belongings. Sam appeared one last time on Main Street as the day drew to a close. The Dragon's watchdogs had let their guard down, sure of their triumph. Twice, she had witnessed Hunter carefully monitoring her move as predicted on the tracking phone. Unbeknownst to them, Jenny's truck was now hauling the phone along the highway north. Sam, meantime, was ready to launch his actual business. Once she returned to her house, she unveiled her combat gear by activating the concealed panel. There was a noticeable uptick in activity captured by the timber mill's compromised security cameras a few months ago. Vehicles entering and exiting the area, while Serpents prepare for the delivery at midnight. They were so engrossed in observing her departure from town that they failed to discern the deliberate placement of FBI teams or the subtle maneuvering of local police into key positions. Cooper confirmed the identity of Robert Briggs, a former Army colonel who was dishonorably discharged 3 years ago following an investigation into missing weapons but was never punished, according to her private phone message. Everything fit together well. Their supplier, Briggs, was a resentful former military officer who used the Serpents as a distribution network and had access codes and contacts. He wasn't just showing up today, he was in charge of the largest shipment yet. Last but not least, Sam started getting ready. The new tactical vests fit her like a glove, with all the features she needed strategically placed. Now that it had shed its civilian garb, her wheelchair revealed its actual character. Features a fortified chassis, tires that won't rupture, and secret storage spaces with enough ammunition to destroy a small army. As the sun began to fall, she mentally went over everything she needed to do. Along the roadway heading north, the Serpents assumed she was fleeing in terror. She was actually going to turn into their biggest nightmare. Hunter had sent a message to the tracking phone, and her phone buzzed. "My darling, keep on the road. Until you reach Canada, keep going." In the waning light, Sam grinned. Unbeknownst to them, the Serpents had spent the whole day observing her departure. Their dominion would fall in a matter of hours, and they would discover the hard way that the most dangerous predator is often the one you ignore until it's too late. The actual procedure was going to start soon. A blanket of darkness descended upon the lumber plant. With the help of her wheelchair's modifications, Sam hid in the shadows of a deserted office building, the sound of her wheels barely audible on the gravel floor. She observed 12 Serpents, each equipped with heavy weaponry, patrolling the perimeter using her night vision sight. Due to Briggs's influence, they had increased their security measures for tonight. "Control, I am keeping an eye on the main entrance," she muttered into her encrypted communicator. "Lots of tangos. Arms of a heavy kind. Difficulty is what they anticipate." Near her ear, Cooper's voice cracked. Just now, Briggs showed up. Automobile in black color. Official license plates. He has given up attempting to conceal. Even from this distance, Sam could see Briggs's military attitude as he stepped out of his truck. As he disapprovingly examined the Serpent setup, he strode around like a man who had never lost his command presence. In an effort to appear important, Hunter followed closely behind. Through Sam's directional microphone, Briggs's voice rang out clearly, informing that the shipment was running late. "Hunter, I hope your team hasn't messed this up. Customers aren't usually known for being patient." As Hunter lit a cigarette, he told the elderly guy to relax. "Ghost himself is showing them the way. Only about 20 minutes." His thoughts were racing. Since Ghost wasn't present at the mill, it was clear that a different direction was actually delivering the goods. A fake caravan was the object of their collective attention. She murmured to Cooper. "Drive along the side roads close to Miller's Creek. Old logging tracks would be used by Ghost." "Yes, I am. Just a moment. I see now, I was correct." 3 trucks are seen driving across the forest in thermal imaging. "They're evading every one of our security checks." Sam beamed a gloomy grin. The Serpents weren't total greenhorns, you know. However, their ingenious path contained a terrible defect. In order to reach the mill's loading dock, they would have to walk through open terrain that is separated from the forest. Just right. Her wheelchair remained completely silent as she started to move, shifting positions. She was well versed in using geography to her advantage from her years of training, and the chair's low profile actually assisted her in remaining hidden. At eye level, the Serpents scanned the area for danger. Ground level was not considered by anybody. Through her communicator, a startling new voice sounded. "My name is Team Bravo, and I am Agent Turner. Activity at the north entrance is increasing. Cartel plates on 4 SUVs." According to Sam, it was the buyers. "Punctual as promised. Keep your balance until I signal." As his anxiety levels rose, Briggs anxiously checked his watch time and time again. "Ghost, where on earth are you? Here we have the buyers." Hunter scowled at Briggs, calling him Patience, Colonel, highlighting the rank he had lost. The military's schedule is not universal. In an instant, Sam saw Briggs's fury radiate from his face. Quite intriguing. They were at odds with one another. She put that away as something that could be helpful. From the bush came the first sound of engines rumbling. Exactly where Ghost had foretold their caravan to be. In the shadows, 3 black trucks weaved through the landscape. They had meticulously prepared for this, yet she had slipped their minds. "Every unit should remain in position," she whispered. "Give me a signal." Everything hinged on the minutes that followed. From the north, the buyers were making their approach. The southern couriers of Ghost. Standing exposed in the center, Briggs and Hunter were ready to supervise the transaction. They would disperse at the first provocation. When Ghost's trucks rolled out from behind the trees, Sam peered through her scope to see them. The leading car signaled with 2 flashes of its headlights. The SUVs owned by the buyers also flashed. Not the one the Serpents had intended, but a trap that was ready to close. As Sam stealthily maneuvered through the darkness, he muttered, "Command, I'm transferring to position 2. As she positioned herself behind a stack of timber, her chair's special suspension expertly navigated the uneven terrain, keeping her stable. At this point, she could see clearly. As the buyers slowly draw near, Ghost's caravan rolls in from behind, and Briggs and Hunter find themselves smack dab in the thick of it. Everything fit perfectly. All of the hard work and preparation over the past few years has finally paid off. "Excuse me." An unfamiliar voice on the phone. "There is an issue. Another buyer formation is moving eastward." "Out of the question." Sam's heart sank. This wasn't your average sale, it was an auction, thanks to the presence of a second group. By forcing the buyers to compete, the Serpents were able to drive up the price by playing both sides. Though astute, it portended the imminent arrival of twice the number of opposing armed forces to their position. She murmured to Cooper. "Time is of the essence. This becomes a shooting gallery if those factions get together." Cooper responded negatively. "It appears that the second group is uncontained. Retain hold." As things became increasingly dicey, Sam kept an eye on things. Weapons were quickly drawn out by the first buyer group upon spotting the second. Hunter drew his own gun as Briggs yelled at him. Caught in the center, Ghost's convoy had come to a halt. Then her eyes fell upon it. Briggs and the second group of buyers exchanged a subtle nod. It wasn't merely a botched auction. A betrayal had been committed. Briggs used to play everyone. "Cooper, the second group is being worked with by Briggs. I can feel the heat building up." Aiming his handgun toward Hunter's head, Briggs drew his weapon before Cooper could react. "You must have thought I didn't need you anymore, right?" Snarling was his sound of choice. "It's just you two, the delivery lads. This is where my true allies are." The lumber mill went into utter disarray. Due to their suspicion of being set up, the first group of buyers opened fire. The drivers of Ghost's caravan hurriedly sought shelter. As soon as anything moved, Hunter's guys began shooting. Sam remained still. The focus shifts to her military training. "I say let them battle it out. Their numbers will naturally decrease." Not having the FBI encircle them was the true trap. They were responsible for creating the crossfire. Looking over her scope, she noticed Briggs evading the gunfire and making his way to an alternate exit. The mayhem didn't shock him. He always intended for this to happen. Allow the gangs to engage in violent conflict, seize the weapons, and dissipate amidst the chaos. She murmured to Cooper. "The move is being made by Briggs. Is it okay to participate?" The sound of gunshots filled the air for an extended period. At long last, Cooper's audio. "Go ahead and do it. Survive, my friend." Unlocking the concealed compartments of her chair, Sam grinned glumly. The moment has come to demonstrate the true capabilities of a handicapped veteran. The lumber plant was become a battleground. As 3 factions engaged in gunfire, the night was illuminated by muzzle flashes and the reverberation of bullets off the metal structures. The black covering on Sam's wheelchair blended seamlessly with the darkness as she glided through the mayhem like a specter. Briggs believed he had planned the ideal diversion and was making his way to the eastern exit. What a mistake. While keeping an eye on Briggs's path, Sam hid behind a forklift. He reverted to his former soldier ways of moving stealthily and taking cover. However, he had erred on a critical point. He was keeping his eyes peeled for any danger. Drooping was never an option. She uttered a hushed command into her communicator, instructing Team Bravo to keep fire on the main group. Put an end to their progress. Briggs is in my care. Over her head, a bullet bounced off the forklift. Concerned more with quantity than accuracy, the initial batch of purchasers was hurling bullets in all directions. Careless action. They would eventually run out. As he moved between the boxes, Briggs was now 30 yards away. Some quick math was done by Sam. Direction, velocity of the wind, and total distance traveled. Because of the recoil compensator she had installed on her rifle, it was ergonomically sound and ideal for shooting from a chair. It had been 3 years since she'd missed a shot. Notifying command, she proceeded to go explosive. A jig, a side, a single. The flawless arc of the flashbang sent it soaring through the sky. It touched down precisely 3 feet behind Briggs, the spot she had predicted. He was too late to notice. It was as loud as a bomb going off. Stunned and confused, Briggs stumbled. At that moment, Sam took action. Traveling at a whisper-quiet 30 miles per hour, her wheelchair could traverse level terrain. In an instant, she spanned the gap and slammed against Briggs's knees. His weapon clanged as he was knocked to the ground by the force of the hit. What a jumble! Briggs attempted to concentrate by blinking. Upon recognizing her, his eyes widened in surprise. The town cripple. He was hit square in the neck by Sam's initial blow. She was seated, so her modified knife-hand attack was ideal. Stumbling backward, Briggs gagged. As she icy-coldly blocked his inept counterattack, she revealed her surprise. His knee was the focus of her subsequent blow. She had first-hand knowledge of how delicate legs could be. Briggs took a major hit. She was unlike anyone he had ever battled before, despite his training. All of her military skills have been rethought and reworked to be as efficient as possible while using a wheelchair. All of his prior knowledge was hurting him. In an attempt to adapt to a standing opponent, he persisted. As she fastened zip ties over his wrists, she declared that he was a federal agent. "Someone has arrested you. I thought you were with the FBI." Amidst his suffering, Briggs found humor. They are currently at rock bottom. The zip ties were purposefully tightened by Sam. "In fact, I've been keeping tabs on your company for the past 3 years. The weaponry that you have been pilfering. Every buyer, serial number, and dishonest officer you have on staff is in our possession." They were cut off by an explosion of gunfire. The gunfire was getting heavier. After coming to terms with Briggs's treachery, Hunter unleashed a full-scale attack on the second group of buyers with his serpents. "Cooper, you say?" Through her comm, Sam made a call. "All is set for Briggs. Proceeding to the second stage. Steal that idea. Groups are prepared. Hardly strike them." After securing Briggs to a beam for support, Sam turned his attention back to the main battle. Both factions of buyers opened fire on the serpents, trapping them in the middle. Just right. She retrieved a little drone controller from the secret compartment of her chair. This moment had been prepared for 3 years. A surprise lurked in the shadows of the timber mill. She gave the order for all units to wear gas masks. She proceeded to push the button. At the same time, smoke canisters exploded all across the lumber yard, creating dense white clouds in the sky. Buyers and serpents alike flocked to the smoke, firing aimlessly. Through her tactical display, though, Sam could perceive everything. As she navigated the mayhem, the adaptations to her wheelchair demonstrated their value. The rubber-coated wheels glided silently over the concrete, while the strengthened frame diverted any shots that might get a bit too close. In the haze, she appeared as a specter, striking and then disappearing. Shots to the leg brought down the first dragon. As the second one slid by, she had an elbow to the solar plexus. She was practically invisible to the standing warriors thanks to her years of battle training and her unique perspective. After the contact ended, a voice yelled. "There is a chair in the Federal." "A what?" Astonishment rang out in Hunter's voice. "She must be located." However, Sam could not be located amidst the thick smoke. Her wheelchair was engineered to be remarkably silent, with a profile that was too low for conventional warfare strategies. Their perceptions of her flaws were completely wrong. She noticed Hunter attempting to rouse his troops just as the smoke was beginning to dissipate. In an effort to coordinate a withdrawal, he was yelling commands. "Forget it." With her weapon steady, Sam took position. As she had done countless times before, a single shot would deactivate it. Hunter was spun around after the round caught him in the shoulder. "Greetings, Winter." As he spoke to her, Cooper's voice was filled with urgency. "The second set of purchasers is running away from it. They have 3 boxes full with weaponry." "I don't think so," Sam said, his steps quickening. She was the only one who knew the layout of the log mill, and her chair's electric engine could outpace a running man. She took an unexpected path by cutting through the warehouse. "Proceed to the south exit if you're a buyer." It appeared to be the one apparent route. However, Sam was ready for this. "Order, carry out confinement procedure, Delta," she said, positioning herself by wheeling. "Let's prove to them that you shouldn't write someone off simply because they're sitting down." Things were going to heat up later on. 2 groups of purchasers fell into Sam's trap without a backward glance. They were about to dash out the south exit when automated barricades were triggered by motion detectors, trapping them. As the enormous metal gates crashed down, preventing their escape, their bewilderment became plain to see. "What on earth?" The commander of the group whirled around, looking for a different exit. Despite possessing 3 crates of guns, they were unable to flee. Invisible speakers all around them emitted Sam's voice. "All you federal agents, put down your firearms and kneel." Gunfire rang out instead, ricocheting off metal barriers. Sam observed their firepower being wasted on shadows through her tactical display. She had designated this lumber factory as her particular battle zone 3 years ago. She muted her regret as she began the following phase. Even though the sprinkler system was turned on, the precipitation that fell wasn't water. A tranquil mist, crafted with care, hung in the air. As the medication started to work, the purchasers lost their footing and started shooting wildly. In a matter of seconds, half of them had bowed to the ground. After reporting that the south sector was under control, Sam went on to her next assignment. "Where does the major fight stand?" Cooper gave a nervous reply. Then Hunter rallied a few of his soldiers. Attempting to breach the eastern border, they are accompanied by Ghost's weapons convoy. Sam beamed a gloomy grin. "Very soon." Steadily making her way to Hunter's group, she whirled through the warehouse. As she shifted into position, her chair's bespoke suspension effortlessly traversed the floor littered with trash, ensuring her stability. Hunter was leading 6 serpents toward the east entrance, and she could see him through the holes in the boxes. They were rushing as quickly as they could while pulling large armament crates. Her earlier shot had left Hunter's shoulder bleeding, but his adrenaline and wrath kept him going. According to his yelling, "This is not feasible. As a wheelchair user, no way is she juggling all of this." "We need to lower the crates, boss," he said, and one of his employees gasped. "There's a delay. If you even touch those boxes, I will personally slay you." Now Hunter's voice sounded really frantic. "This is our opportunity to play at a higher level." For some reason, Sam felt the need to key her phone. "As I prepare to intercept, my sights are fixed on Hunter, Cooper. Winners, exercise caution. He's in a bind and needs help badly." Standing at the very end of the row, Sam began to figure out the angles. They overlooked her wheelchair's advantage. She possessed the ability to fire from beneath the shelving units, through openings that would elude their scrutiny. A shot to the leg brought down the first dragon, who cried out in shock as it fell. Before either of them could determine the source of the fire, the second took a bullet to the shoulder. "No way. Lie down." At last, Hunter let go of his container and let out a scream. "You must locate her." Sam had already begun to move, circling around to their side. As they scampered about like a pair of bulls in a china shop, her chair's silent motor provided her with ideal movement. She eliminated each one individually. Similar to her training, these shots would not kill. As everyone else fell, Hunter stood there, his arms flailing in an attempt to find her. "Exhibit yourself," he yelled out. "Stand before me like an actual warrior." "Very well." His rear was the source of the word. Turning around, Sam's chair shattered a pile of empty boxes. The moment he lifted his weapon, she pounced on him. Her initial blow sent his weapon flying as it struck him in the wrist. The second one, an improved version of her leg sweep, dislocated his knee. Incredulous, Hunter sank to his knees and stared up at her. "Just how?" "Simply put, you are a cripple." The next blow that Sam delivered rendered him speechless was a well-rehearsed blow to the jaw. She spoke calmly as she bound his wrists, identifying herself as the cripple who had just brought down your entire scheme. "No need to stand up, I managed it all." Cooper spoke with an air of urgency to Agent Turner. "There is an issue. Briggs is absconding." Sam's posture abruptly changed. "Excuse me? Just how?" To his relief, he had staff. He was paying one of the security officers. "It's the north loading dock they're aiming toward." In a flash, Sam fastened Hunter to a beam by use of a zip tie. "Very soon. So, this concludes tonight." With a fresh sense of determination, she made her way through the warehouse. Everything revolved around Briggs. Who supplied the weaponry, who had ties to the military, and which officials were corrupt. Alive and communicating was crucial. With a panoramic view of the whole complex, the north loading dock served as the mill's highest point. She was able to make out distant sounds of helicopter rotors as she drew near. A way out was in Briggs's plans. "Someone needs to get eyes on that helicopter, and I need support at the north dock, Cooper," she called. Something seemed off, though, as she approached the dock's entrance. No one seemed to be watching the open door. An excellent soldier like Briggs would never risk leaving himself vulnerable in such a way. Be careful, because it was a trap. On top of that, Sam rolled headfirst into it. Her paranoia was confirmed when the initial bullet struck her chair's reinforced backrest. In anticipation of her imminent arrival, Briggs had established a kill zone. However, he had erred on a crucial point. To this day, he believes she can't fight without the chair. In the shadows, Sam grinned. It is time to demonstrate the true capabilities of a crippled veteran. The cargo dock was illuminated by the helicopter's searchlight, which formed severe shadows. With 3 shooters in a perfect formation, Briggs had covered every possible approach with his remaining men. However, being predictable had not helped Sam survive Afghanistan. "Cooker, keep the radio off unless there's an emergency," she said before turning out the light. A seemingly innocuous custom-made piece of technology, the backup battery pack for her chair had explosive force sufficient to break a steel door. She removed it. She had learned to weaponize everything people thought was medical equipment after years of being underestimated. It came as a complete surprise to the first guard. The battery pack exploded against the wall behind him after soaring through the air. Even though the explosion didn't kill him, he was sent flying by the concussive force and debris rain. Most significantly, it caught everyone's eye, even though Sam himself wasn't the center of attention. Without even getting out of her chair, she dropped into a combat crawl that she had practiced. She was able to stealthily traverse the concrete floor thanks to the strength in her upper body that had evolved over the years. Without once considering looking down, Briggs's soldiers continued to stare at the location of the explosion. Did she disappear? They growled at each other. That chair must be used by the handicapped. Pulling herself behind a crate, Sam permitted herself a gloomy smile. Assumptions regarding disability have always been a source of vulnerability for people. The chair was merely a tool, not a prison. From above high, Briggs's voice resounded. You must locate her. We can only escape via that helicopter. Searchlights cast shifting shadows that Sam skillfully maneuvered into hiding spots. She retrieved 3 little objects that resembled dice from a concealed pocket in her tactical vest. Under the pretext of medical devices, another one of our custom designs is electromagnetic pulse generators. As it rolled beneath the rotorcraft, the first one's magnetic surface gently clicked on the landing strut. The second and third went in separate directions, but they eventually converged on the power distribution box located at the loading dock. Our time is limited, boss. Anxiety was beginning to grip one of Briggs's soldiers. Members of the FBI's squads are rapidly approaching. Briggs coiled his jaw and his fists in a threatening manner. You can get insurance without destroying that federal dickhead. A series of electromagnetic pulses were set off by Sam. As soon as the electricity went off, the loading dock became dark. The electronics of the helicopter malfunctioned, causing the rotors to screech as they wound down. Sam took action among the subsequent mayhem. Her height gave her the upper hand, so she dragged herself onto a loading pallet. The first guard was about 3 feet away when the unexpected darkness struck, and his night vision goggles made him blind. With pinpoint accuracy, Sam struck his carotid artery. When he hit the floor, he was already unconscious. As soon as Sam began to move, the second guard turned to face the source of the noise. Drawing on a tactic she had refined during her time as a Marine, she turned his momentum against him. Her knees and ankles were her weak spots when she was on the ground. He was severely injured. This is a trap. You could see the third guard was freaking out. She's not in the chair, she's... His warning was abruptly interrupted when Sam's garrote wire drew him down to her level after catching him across the chest. His defiance was eradicated with a swift blow to the temple. The darkness was sliced to ribbons by Briggs's voice. Wow, Agent Turner, that was impressive. Taking advantage of your impairment for strategic purposes. However, you are mistaken. My trap was this. Emerging from concealed locations, lights burst into action. In the blink of an eye, Sam was blinded by a flurry of headlights. Briggs stood on the upper level of the loading dock, clutching a tablet computer, as her eyes adjusted. In search of this? A tablet was waved by him. You meticulously documented every single weapon shipment, purchaser, and corrupt official over the course of 3 years. Naturally, with encryption. I am the last password holder. Sam kept low, measuring distances and angles. So you're saying that tablet is going to save you? The entire mill is encircled. And Briggs chuckled. It remains a mystery to you. How come I gave you permission to monitor this operation for a period of 3 years? In your opinion, why did we allow you to approach so close? As a shiver went down Sam's back, the consequences hit her hard. It was obvious to you. Right from the start, you were aware. Naturally, we were aware. Do you honestly believe you're their first agent dispatched? However, you were flawless. The wounded warrior who was hell-bent on proving herself. Your every action and piece of evidence ended up precisely where we intended them to. His thoughts were racing. A 3-year inquiry. The evidence is safely kept on encrypted servers. Servers that someone else had access to. Agent Cooper, your superior. Briggs's grin turned icy. From day one, he has been an integral part of our team. He is currently erasing all connections and wiping every server. Everything will be vanished by the time the sun rises. The rumble of oncoming cars intensified. The FBI trucks, though, weren't those. The men of Briggs. Your impairment wasn't your worst flaw, Agent Turner. That was the faith you had in the system. You were sent to Afghanistan by the same system that gave you legs and gave you hope that you might make a difference. My hands were balled up in fists, Sam. Someone else's game included all of her hard work, proof, and sacrifices. One crucial error, nevertheless, had been committed by Briggs. In his mind, this discovery would crush her. As she reached for her last concealed weapon, she whispered, "You're right about one thing. The system was not up to par. That is why, 2 years ago, I began to doubt it." The grin on Briggs's face wavered. "Excuse me?" There were others besides Cooper who played both sides. He received duplicates of all the evidence I supplied him. Someone no one, not even you, can reach. Sam was next in line to flash a smile. You believed a wounded soldier would put her faith in the system that duped her when she had no other choice. The actual procedure was going to start soon. Briggs's self-assured grin disappeared when his phone started ringing. His expression turned gloomy when he caught a glimpse of the TV. "Just tell me." Standing comfortably on the ground, Sam advised checking the server's security. Each and every one. With each swipe, Briggs's fingers raced over his phone, his face intensifying. "No way. These firewalls are built to military standards. Plus, I had a full 3 years to figure things out. At this very now, every major news organization and law enforcement agency is uploading details about everything you've done, including the weapons you've sold and the officials you've paid." A mysterious noise pierced the darkness. Multiple helicopters approaching rapidly. Under Briggs's supervision. They were birds of war. According to Sam, those aren't helicopters from the FBI. A Special Operations Aviation Regiment, that is, the 160th. "Do you recall those, Colonel?" "Recalled device?" They are highly curious about the whereabouts of their vanishing weaponry. Fury twisted Briggs's features. "Now, Cooper, secure a line for me to talk to you." "Poor guy, he's not able to assist you." In response to the anxious movements of Briggs's men, Sam drew herself behind a crate. "His arrest has likely already taken place. Seeing as you watched me relay information to Cooper, I was actually collaborating with someone else beforehand. Someone, who has spent more time searching for you than I have." In Briggs's palm rested the tablet, and it beeped. Upon reading the message, his eyes grew wider. "Oh, Director Chen, so you're collaborating with the CIA?" Sam hardened his smile. "Over the course of 2 years, I sent all of the evidence I gathered to 2 different locations. Servers that Cooper had compromised and those that Chen had secured. Your fixation on the injured agent obscured your awareness of the true nature of the probe. The final strands of power that Briggs had were severed. Murder her. Extinguish her immediately." Even though Sam was already in motion, his surviving soldiers opened fire. She had dedicated months to learning the layout of this loading dock by heart, perfecting her balance and agility in ways that most people would never dream of achieving on their own. She skillfully moved from one covert to another, maximizing her low profile. After appearing feeble for 3 years, she finally spoke up, igniting their fury. "I let you believe I was merely a wounded veteran for 3 years. Curious about the reality?" She set off her last surprise. Spread out across the cargo dock are the remote charges. Industrial magnets taken from the machinery of the lumber mill, rather than explosives. With a strong hum, they went into action, and all of a sudden, any weapon that had metal parts was pulled toward the walls. The truth is that I was never a fighter who required the chair. I went with that since people tend to ignore those they perceive as defenseless. Briggs hadn't planned for the loading dock to become a battleground. The magnetic forces were too strong for his soldiers to overcome, rendering their guns ineffective. In addition, Sam lurked among them like a phantom, striking from below and taking advantage of their own stature. She said that Director Chen had been gathering evidence against you for a long time as she knocked down another guard with a knee blow. However, he was unable to approach. After that, I arrived. This cover is ideal. The crippled veteran, who would dare to suspect him? Briggs began to text quickly on his iPad in an attempt to halt the data upload. Everything can still be deleted by me. Yeah, that's crazy talk. Finally, Sam's voice came closer. Your actual servers haven't seen that tablet in months. Like the rest of your organization, it's all for show. As the military helicopters flooded the area with their headlights, they were now straight overhead. Special Forces personnel moved with pinpoint accuracy as armed individuals descended on rapid ropes. Do you know the most heartbreaking aspect? Pulling herself onto a box, Sam stepped out of the shadows and met Briggs's gaze. Men like you would never be able to see past my impairment, which you honestly thought was a weakness of mine. However, it was actually my greatest asset. Briggs pulled out a concealed handgun, but Sam was quicker. He lost his hold on her when she struck him on the wrist. From her ground fighting style, she had honed the second hit, which took off his knee. As he tumbled, she seized the tablet, preserving it as proof. An ethereal voice addressed Samantha Turner. Warm wishes from Director Chen. Briggs and his surviving troops were cornered as the Special Operations Squad charged in. Their processing and zip tying were eventually finished, and Sam watched as her role in the operation was fulfilled. With an offer of assistance, one of the operators went up to her. Do you require assistance in returning to your seat, ma'am? With the kind of upper body strength that would embarrass most athletes, Sam grinned and pulled herself up. I understand, but thank you. Throughout my life, I have. While being escorted away, Briggs made a final U-turn. Just how? It was an ultimatum from him. You fooled everyone for a long time. As Sam returned to her wheelchair, she said, I didn't fool anyone. Both of you were deceived. What did you expect to see? A wounded veteran making an honest effort to prove herself. You have never pondered the rationale behind my seeming cover-up, given my battle record. Morning light was just peeking over the lumber mill when Sam turned on the engine for her chair. She remained undercover for 3 years, allowing them to underestimate her at every stage while playing the part they expected her to play. But she was never the helpless victim they made her out to be. She had always played the role of the huntress. During the federal agents' invasion of the facility, Dawn painted the lumber mill in various shades of gold. The loading of Briggs and his soldiers into armored trucks was something that Sam observed from her wheelchair. Chen, the director, a man in his 50s with sharp features, came up to her while holding a tablet that showed real-time data uploads. He said that 17 corrupt officials had been named thus far. 4 state prosecutors, 2 generals, and 3 federal judges. Your proof is impenetrable. Cooper, you say? Even though Sam knew the answer, she still asked. I attempted to run just as the servers became live. I was apprehended 20 minutes ago at the Canadian border. Chen looked downcast. For 3 years, you allowed him to think he was in charge of your life. It's impressive. With her shoulders tense from the battle the night before, Sam shifted her position. I wasn't being run by him. He was being fed by me. You were actually copying everything he thought he was erasing to your protected servers. He guided us all the way to the peak. Nonetheless, Chen observed another vehicle go. Being a resident of this community, pretending to be a defeated veteran and enduring the constant mockery. Agents typically don't last more than a month. Sam beamed a little. A majority of agents would have failed to see the benefit. My weak spot was not the wheelchair. I was able to make the most of it. The crippled veteran is not believed to pose a danger by anybody. At this point, the federal vehicle convoys had drew in the local news vans. The proprietor of the diner hurried over to Sam as soon as Jenny's pickup arrived. Jenny let out a gasp. "I had no idea they would be so persistent in their cafe harassment until you mentioned having a strategy. According to Sam, we're just what we needed. Every occurrence, every sarcasm, every danger. They were overconfident and careless as a result of it all." The chief of staff, looking a mix of amazed and little uncomfortable, made his way over. "Turner, the agent, yes, None of us knew. The entire extent was unknown even to those of us who were aware of your FBI affiliation. That was the main idea, anyway." In order to face him, Sam pivoted her chair. The response from the town had to be sincere. "You had no choice but to treat me as a crippled veteran, just like any other." It confirmed the Serpents' preconceived notions. Military intelligence, the ATF, and possibly the CIA were dispatching additional cars. All of Briggs's tendrils were now exposed in his network. In the midst of nationwide efforts to bring down unscrupulous politicians and weaponry dealers, Sam's phone was continuously ringing with updates. "Director," cried out a youthful agent. "You should view this. In Briggs's office, we discovered a secret chamber. It seems like there are links abroad." Jenny walked hand in hand with Sam as she rolled herself toward the office building. "Did you get the meaning of this?" Quietly, Jenny inquired. "After something makes headlines, you can't possibly remain here." "Yes, I am aware." Just a little remorse crept up on Sam. Pine Valley had become her favorite place, despite everything. Nevertheless, the objective transcended any particular locality. A small portion of the iceberg was Briggs's business. The secret chamber included a wealth of information, including maps delineating potential weapon routes, names of corrupt officials who had yet to be brought to justice, and blueprints for operations that would never materialize. Photos of Sam taken by surveillance cameras display on one wall. While strolling across town, at the store, and at the cafe. Briggs, who mistakenly believed he was the hunter, had been observing her from the start. It remained a mystery to him. Chen looked at the pictures and thought. He had no idea you were playing him, even though everything was under watch. Reason being, his expectations were met. Taking a picture of herself in her wheelchair, Sam felt exposed. Therein lies the crux of bias. You can't see it. They were dead certain that sitting on that chair would weaken me. They never once asked why someone with my history of combat would go for such a transparent cover. They were distracted by a disturbance outside. As federal authorities released several individuals, the first news helicopters began to land, their cameras rolling. The news would spread across the country in a matter of hours. The downfall of one of the world's greatest arms trafficking networks by a crippled soldier working alone. But Sam was aware that this was merely the start. Other operations would be understandably anxious if Briggs were to be arrested. A secure line message beeped onto her phone. Stage 2, prepared for your arrival. Jenny saw the look on her face. Don't you think there's more? Nothing has ended yet. Although it never ends, Sam said as he watched the sun rise over the mountains. One point was on which Briggs was correct. We must battle corruption from within the system because it exists. Processes performed sequentially. Already plotting her next move, she swiveled her chair toward the exit. As she progressed, the wheelchair made a low hum, a sound that had come to represent getting closer to justice. In her wake, Briggs's dominion slipped away. Meanwhile, other cities and scrupulous officials were glued to the news, sensing the first signs of panic. Why? Because a wounded veteran may be lurking around, waiting patiently, and allowing them to believe their own fabrications about what made someone dangerous. The actual labor had only just started. Sam rolled into the restricted briefing room at Fort Harrison as military aircraft roared overhead. In front of a wall of displays showing real-time data from raids across the nation, Special Operations Command Chief General Richardson, stood. As more weapon stockpiles were revealed through light footage, his expression became gloomy. "I didn't call this meeting to announce that we've seized over 2 billion in illicit guns. Nonetheless, that was 48 hours after Briggs's arrest," he told the assembled task team. As his assistant handed out sealed folders, he gave a subtle nod. "Slide them open." As Sam went over the contents, her blood froze. Images captured by surveillance cameras showed masked individuals entering safe houses in various parts of the world. "Briggs's contingency plan," she whispered. "It was his sleeper cells." "That is right, Agent Turner." A map depicting red dots spreading like a virus was referred to by Richardson. "These cells went into action the second we stepped foot on the lumber mill. They're more than just traders in weaponry. Mercenaries, that is. Ex-military who had training from Briggs." "For how many?" "Approximately 200, as far as we are aware. Every one of them armed with top-secret weaponry and stolen technology. Plus, they're mostly focused on one goal." He locked eyes with Sam. "Who are you?" The atmosphere dimmed. Without showing any emotion on her face, Sam persisted in reading the intelligence. Little did anyone anticipate the scope of Briggs's network. The operation at the timber plant had involved more than just guns. Witnessing her work had been an exercise in testing my mettle. According to Richardson, there's more. Briggs has been speaking out and claims that a former CIA wetworks operator known only as the Architect is one of the players involved, someone whom he himself feared. This individual has been utilizing Briggs's weapons pipeline to construct a private army. Chen, the director, leaned in closer. "Is the Architect's ID on file?" "No, however we did find this in Briggs's private documents." The screen displayed a fresh image. An Afghan village that has burned to the ground. Instantly, Sam identified it. Her knuckles turned white as she clenched the arms of her wheelchair. According to her whispered words, that's the spot where she lost her legs. There was a pattern to the IED. Richardson affirmed that it wasn't. It was set up by the Architect. When you were approaching Briggs's organization, they knew. Agent Turner, your demise was the intended target of the blast. When that failed, they started fixating on you. During the 3 years while you were undercover, they observed and took notes. His thoughts were racing. Each and every one of your meticulously orchestrated interactions with the Serpents. The hunter, she imagined herself to have been. Her strategies, modifications, and fighting style had really been observed by another individual. There was a sudden entrance of a junior analyst. "Extensive breaches have been discovered, sir. Someone has broken into our protected servers." All across the room, screens flickered and then died. One message showed up when they turned them back on. "Is Briggs the last goal, in your opinion, Samantha?" Everywhere in the base, alarms were going off. Someone cried, "We've got incoming." Several armed individuals have broken through the defenses. Richardson specified that Agent Turner be conveyed to the secure bunker. However, Sam was already in motion, hustling toward the door in her wheelchair. "That is precisely what they desire," she remarked with all due respect to you, General. "They are causing us harm. Just a demonstration, not an attack." The fact that the assailants never got inside the building seems to back up her claims. In the blink of an eye, they were gone, replaced solely by a tablet showing additional surveillance footage. Pine Valley Sam. Sam working in the lumberyard. Sam defeating Briggs's forces. It dawned on Chen that they'd been ahead of schedule the entire time. It was all plotted, the seizure of firearms, the arrest of Briggs. As Sam examined the photographs, he determined that it was quite close. They blundered just like Briggs. Because of my wheelchair, they assumed I would be easy to forecast. Turning to Richardson, she spoke. I require all records you possess pertaining to the CIA's wetworks activities in Afghanistan that occurred 5 years ago, General. Each participant, each objective. Hey there, Agent Turner. That's absolutely top secret. The stolen technology for prototype weapons is as well. My money is on the fact that Briggs's warehouses weren't merely a hoard of technology. Her unwavering stare was riveted on Richardson. They have been receiving intelligence from someone within military intelligence. From on high, someone. The general's expression became more serious as the consequences became clear. Secret documents were accessible to an excessive number of individuals. An abundance of potential avenues for wrongdoing. Where might a leak that high up be? The question was posed by Chen. Sam told me that we don't. They were able to locate us because we allowed it. A map of known weapons caches was brought up by her as she wheeled to the center console. The architect aspires to demonstrate their superior intelligence to ours. Fine. We should provide them with an irresistible game. Initiating a pattern, she started to mark places. These areas are not protected enough. The architect will probably think we'll start by robbing them. To that end, we divulged the strategies for the operations. Tell them they're familiar with our strategy. Richardson nodded slowly as they watched those sites. We hit them in the most unexpected places. Hidden facilities that not even Briggs was aware of were revealed when Sam pulled up an additional map. There is a deity complex in the architect. A crippled spy dares to oppose their organization, and they want to show that they can outthink him. Thus, let's make use of that. The scheme was bold and risky. It would be a total bust if their assumptions regarding the architect's mental health were incorrect. Yet, for 3 years, Sam was underappreciated. She was adept at using assumptions as a weapon against her adversaries. Subtly, she spoke to the general. You must have faith in me. No matter how much it seems like I've rebelled. A long moment passed while Richardson watched her. Someone from the architect's inner circle is likely there in this room, someone from military intelligence or the FBI. If I follow my gut, you're asking me to put my life on the line. Not at all, sir. So, the architect is amassing an army, and I want you to take a chance on him. You won't find those stolen firearms for sale elsewhere. There's a greater purpose for them. A slow nod was given by the general. Pull it off. His voice trailing off, he advanced toward Agent Turner. Use caution. The architect's failure to eliminate you in Afghanistan was more than that. As an underappreciated crippled veteran, they transformed you into the ideal weapon. Refrain from allowing them to complete their task. With a grimace on her face, Sam rolled toward the door. My approach will go unnoticed. No one ever is able to. The following stage was about to start soon. On this occasion, Sam was not merely on the prowl for weapons traffickers. She was on the lookout for the individual responsible for her paralysis, who had meticulously observed her every action for 3 years. How well do we understand the architect's mental health? While seated in a wheelchair at a specially designed desk in the FBI's mobile command center, Sam perused the secret documents laid out across the encrypted terminal. The town of Pine Valley had turned into a ghost town as its inhabitants remained indoors, terrified by the presence of the military. Relying on extensively censored papers that focused on dismantling adversary command structures from within, Chen, a former CIA psychological operations expert, responded. They wreak havoc on more than just businesses. Just like Briggs's network, they revamp them. Meanwhile, Sam pondered. Creating a private military unit out of an arms trafficking enterprise. On each screen, a fresh warning light appeared. Once again, a stash of firearms was found in a community in a suburban area of California. However, the timing seemed off. In his statement as he rolled to a separate terminal, Sam said that they were teasing them. We have meticulously documented and organized every cache we have found. While they transfer their actual assets, they want us to compile a list of weapons. A message from an unidentified number buzzed her encrypted phone. Samantha, you're making progress, but not quickly enough. Subsequently, 3 states' worth of military installations were shaken by explosions. Not massive explosions, but pinpoint attacks on sites housing weapons. Sam recognized the pattern as the warnings poured in. Then it hit her, they're erasing proof. Our inquiry included every institution we had flagged, including their cleaning service. As he examined his tablet, Chen's face turned pale. We are unable to reach the transport Briggs is being held by at this time. They came to a halt on an Idaho mountain road, according to GPS. As she made her way towards the entrance, Sam's wheelchair hummed with activity. Hovercraft that to me, please. Sam, hold on a second, Chen yelled after her. Their goal in doing this is to draw you out and separate you. Very well. Sam made sure her weapons were safe by checking her chairs and concealed places. Because I've had enough of defending myself. The next 20 minutes found her atop a Blackhawk, gliding through thick forest on her way to Briggs's last known whereabouts. Since the transport's GPS signal remained unchanged, an ambush or worse was likely imminent. The pilot gave the signal 5 minutes before approach. Do you have any doubts, ma'am, about this? On standby, we have gunships. Answering that there was no backup, Sam checked her tactical vest. Official channels and too many eyes are on the architect. This can't appear staged. The cargo vehicle was visible, its escort cars still lined up, as it paused on a winding mountain route. There were no casualties or footprints. No sound at all. Put me down 50 yards back, Sam said. Then straighten up. Keep quiet no matter what happens. As she rolled down the cargo ramp, she encountered uneven terrain, which her chair's increased suspension skillfully navigated. She approached the vehicle incognito, using the modified controls to move stealthily. The rear entrances were ajar. On the inside, Briggs sat serenely in his shackles, grinning as though he had anticipated her arrival. Sam, he whispered a greeting. You would be traveling solo, according to her. Did she disappear? Who designed it? Nearer than you may imagine. You know, she's been observing you for a long time, taking notes. Specifically, the strategies you created for fighting after you lost both of your legs. You were used as an example of human progression by her. As Sam drew nearer to her hidden sidearm, her hand twitched. This IED was set off by her. Sure, but she didn't intend to murder you, she wanted to change you. Someone extraordinary, capable of showing the full potential of tactical adaptation, was what she was looking for. With a twinkle in his eye, Briggs leaned forward. How come she consented to your 3-year investigation into me? Samantha, we weren't being pursued. We were learning from you. In the woods, a branch broke. In a smooth action, Sam drew her weapon as she swung around in her chair, but there was no one in the shadows. Briggs went on to say that she was absent. This is merely another lesson, another opportunity to gauge your adaptability. For what purpose? On the transport floor, Briggs gestured to a tablet that was lying there. Just look at it. There were live streams from bases all across the globe. In every one of them, troops were finding out that their real weapons had been swapped out for exact duplicates, inactive decoys that had been changed out months or even years before. The real weapons are already distributed to sleeper cells in every major city, Briggs whispered. Samantha, the architect has no interest in selling weapons. Thanks to you, she was able to accomplish her goal of showing how weak the system actually is. His thoughts were racing. It was all meticulously planned, every cache they had taken, every database they had acquired. Instead of merely observing her work, the architect had been utilizing Sam's investigation to conceal her true motives. For what reason would you like me to know this? A broad grin spread across Briggs's face. Simply put, she wants you to comprehend. When will this end? The mayhem? The breakdown of command hierarchies in the military? It's all a part of your own growth, in her eyes. Something more robust arises as the weaker systems collapse. The tablet displayed a fresh message. Samantha, are you prepared for our next lesson? An engine began to rev up the transport's speed all of a sudden. As soon as the car got going, the doors closed themselves, and Briggs's grin spread. Time is of the essence, he yelled out. The charges will detonate in around 3 minutes. There is a sliver of time to rescue me or halt the actual operation taking place across the mountain. As the architect's soldiers prepared to move in, Sam's chair sensors detected a convergence of heat signatures emanating from the woods. However, why? In the darkness, her genuine adversary was observing, absorbing, and adjusting as she faced a decision. Things were shifting, and Sam still wasn't sure if being underappreciated was a strategy or just a coincidence. In the split second following Briggs's statement, Sam's thinking computed paths and chances. The vehicle was charging as it sped down the steep road. The architect's forces were drawing near, heat signatures were making their way through the trees behind her, and something even worse was occurring across the mountain. The choice was hers. As she spun her chair toward the trees, she said something about how Briggs would die anyhow if the charges were to go off. Her tactical display revealed 15 enemies advancing in synchronized formations. Her clandestine work had involved similar formations, so she was familiar with them. It dawned on her that they were subtly utilizing her own strategies against her. She had educated her forces to think like Sam, not merely study her tactics, the architect said. She sped through the underbrush, utilizing terrain features she usually avoided, as the motor of her chair buzzed. Just like she had done for the past 3 years while keeping her cover, they would anticipate her to use the most direct routes. She needed to demonstrate her chair's capabilities now. The initial assailant failed to anticipate her arrival. With the help of her adaptive wheelchair, Sam managed to climb out of a trench that looked insurmountable. It only took a pinpoint shot to his knee to knock him out cold. "Please get in touch." "Hey," someone yelled. Among the trees, she is. Sam, though, was already on the move, slipping between cover locations they'd never think of thanks to the low profile of her chair. Over the years of adjusting to her infirmity, her battle adaptations had progressed beyond conventional tactical reactions. A ghost was attacking the architect's men. No visual, echo team. She isn't utilizing the pathways, Delta. What is her strategy for navigating this terrain? Precise shots defeated 3 other assailants. Not fatal, but severely crippling. For Sam, it wasn't just about battling. A message was being conveyed by her. The builder was hoping to pick her brain about her techniques. That was just superb. According to her strategy map, the surviving troops were reorganizing and changing their formation. Like her, they were learning and changing as they went along. Someone rang Sam's encrypted phone. A note from the builder. "Impressive improvising, but Briggs is getting away." As the vehicle slid down the mountain road, its visibility was diminishing. It was just about 90 seconds until the charges went off, according to Sam. According to Sam's response, "You're not quite as smart as you believe. Verify that you have thermal imaging." During her brief conversation, she had planted a micro-EMP aboard the conveyance, which was designed to fry electronic detonators. All charges had been dropped. Briggs had no plans to leave. Instantaneous action was taken. Very remarkable. But I'm going to switch up the board while you play chess. Out of nowhere, new signatures appeared on Sam's tactical display. In the midst of the woods, a multitude of them. Away from her, and towards whatever was beyond the mountain. Accessing satellite feeds. It was announced via the chair's computer. The sight shivered her spine. In the midst of the mountainside, concealed, was an airstrip. What appeared to be missile parts were being loaded onto 3 cargo planes. The story was told by the manifests that flashed over her screen. Elements of an undesired weapon system. Possibly capable of evading Earth's defense networks. At last, the action has begun. What the architect had to say persisted. A diversion was Briggs. The sawmill for wood. The stores of firearms. Not to mention your 3 years spent hiding. The whole point is to divert attention away from this. His thoughts were racing. This architect hadn't merely constructed a personal army. Under the guise of Sam's research, she had set up an entire shadow military apparatus. Law enforcement's attention on weapons busts only served to bolster the architect's covert operation. Cooper has provided us with an address. Central Command for the architect. The Bitterroot Mountains are home to a modified missile silo of some type. According to Sam, who was still monitoring hostile moves on her screen, it's a trap. While her actual operation gets underway, she wants us to focus on that. What's going on? While watching the satellite stream, Sam made mental notes about trends in the cargo's loading. The way they were dividing up the weight seemed off. Unless, she concluded, the missiles are only decoys. Examine the loading pattern. They haven't got them balanced right for real launches yet. Here we have still another level of dishonesty. She improved several parts of the cargo bays by focusing on them closely. There it is. Those storage units. Those aren't parts of a weapon. They are being served. Processing units for quantum computers. The final goal of the architect became clear. Private armies, weapon trafficking, and the like were not at issue here. A shadow intelligence network, capable of hacking and controlling any military system globally, was to be constructed. Sam assured Chen that she has no intention of provoking conflict. When that happens, she will have both sides under her control. The sensors in her chair detected fresh motion. As fast as they had emerged from the woodland, the enemy forces were retreating and vanishing into the woods. Realizing it was nearly too late to intervene, the architect was allowing her to perceive the broader perspective. Nearly there. Please, Chen, share all of our data on regional quantum computing facilities with me. Documentation of power usage, acquisition of cooling systems, and any noteworthy events occurring during the past 3 years. Taken care of. But wait, Sam, there's more. The architect's CIA operations records were discovered. The Afghan village where you amputated your legs. More is hidden in that tale. The grips on Sam's chair grew increasingly firm. Please, tell me. The purpose of the IED wasn't merely to render you inoperable. There was a distinct blast pattern from the explosion. Just as it was intended to do, it caused harm. Just the bare minimum. She wants me to sit in this chair, Sam whispered. Every step I've taken since then, from healing to adapting to my new fighting style. Chen verified that you weren't only a study subject for her. As the first of your sort, you were her model for a new type of operator. Yes, Sam, there are others. Additional disabled veterans are being observed, evaluated, and researched. An unprecedented army is being assembled by the architect. In the distance, Sam could make out the mountain route where Briggs's plane had vanished, the concealed airstrip hauling an enigmatic cargo, and the woods where her tactics-trained enemies had tried to stump her. Taking advantage of people's presumptions about her disabilities, she imagined herself as the hunter. Yet another individual had been in charge of a far lengthier operation. What would she do in response was the true question. Sam perused the data flowing across various screens in the mobile command center, which revealed trends in power use, satellite thermal imaging, transportation logs, and everything else that seemed to be hiding something. She pointed to 3 spots on the computerized map that had energy signatures that were compatible with quantum computing and proclaimed them. Still, it's too blatant. We should seek them out, says the architect. Chen drew nearer, scrutinizing the information. Decoys and locations for testing. She is closely observing our intelligence analysis and operational planning processes. Sam swung around to a different terminal and retrieved employee records. Oh, but check this out. Nearly all of the facility's employees are disabled veterans who were actively sought out and trained for this purpose. The ramifications were enormous. It wasn't enough for the architect to check out Sam's modifications. She was making them in large quantities, building an underappreciated army of operatives. According to a junior agent, the most recent update is from Briggs's transport. It had been left deserted 20 kilometers down the mountainside. No Briggs, no charges. However, this was discovered. He presented Sam with a compact data drive. Evolution was the only word on the label. Be cautious, Chen cautioned, as it could be infected, as Sam prepared to insert it. According to Sam, who connected the disk to a secure system, she wants him to view this. In a few minutes, her specialist interface deciphered the encrypted files. Her pulse rate dropped as she saw what she did. Materials pertaining to the architect's work with wounded veterans, including research papers, medical records, and video footage from conflict. However, it extended beyond only training. Operators with varying infirmities were the focus of designs for sophisticated prostheses, neural interfaces, and combat systems. In Sam's view, she isn't merely amassing a military force. She is paving the way for the next generation of military technology by reimagining impairments as strengths and weaknesses. By default, a new video file was launched. It originated in Afghanistan 5 years ago, according to the timestamp. The town where Sam had lost her legs was immediately recognizable. This perspective, however, was distinct. She had never seen a drone vision like this before. Her younger self and her squad were shown navigating the streets in the clip. Next, the precisely planned IED explosion. Precise and accurate was the explosion pattern. It wasn't haphazard, Sam whispered. Her meticulous planning ensured that I would get this precise result, down to the explosives used and their precise placement. The video went on to depict something different. Similar circumstances, different objectives, different locales, but identical pinpoint accuracy among other warriors. For optimum adaptability, every injury was calculated and every disability was created. I asked Chen how many. So far, we have found 47. Every single one of these wounded veterans, and that's just the ones we're aware of, was enrolled in a specialized program following their injuries. With a firm grasp, Sam's hands clung to the controls of her chair. Her game has been going on for longer than anyone expected. I was assisting her in honing the process in any way I could in Pine Valley. Someone rang her encrypted phone. The architect has another message. At last, it clicks. Samantha, you weren't merely a model for me. I crafted my masterpiece in you. Warning lights blinked on all of the screens before Sam could react. All of the quantum computing centers were turning on at the same time. Major changes were about to occur. After detecting multiple cyber attacks, an analyst was alerted. Attacks on military networks around the world are becoming more common, but the patterns remain recognizable. As Sam watched the data streams, he confirmed that they are employing my penetration techniques. I modified all of my covert job tools for use in cyber warfare. The strikes were as graceful and exacting as the IED that had severed her limbs. It had taken Sam years to refine his methods, but in hindsight, they appeared simple, and each hack targeted specific vulnerabilities. Chen was adamant that we had to stop them. Reach all 3 locations simultaneously. Sam firmly stated no. She desires that very thing. The true danger does not lie in these assaults. Another test, they are. She's taking note of our reactions and drawing lessons from our protective habits. With her thoughts racing, she made her way to the center console. For a long time, the architect had studied her modifications, trying to figure out how she had made the most of her weaknesses. It was time to turn that trick on her now. Sam gave the order to locate every injured veteran who has been accepted into specialized programs within the past 5 years and to get in touch with the Pentagon Cyber Command directly. We need to prove to the architect that she isn't the only one capable of change. Once again, her phone beeped. Is Samantha ready to make a move? Keep in mind that you learned all you know about transforming your weaknesses into strengths from me. Sam typed her response with a grimace on her face. Yes, I have picked up some knowledge on my own, but you have taught me all you know. She looked over at Chen. Place our individuals in charge. Still, I insist on having my way this time. We have no special forces, no tactical units. I am interested in hearing from validated, trustworthy disabled veterans. Persons who are familiar with the concept of adaptation. It dawned on Chen that he was assembling his own army. Nope. I'm assembling a group of those who have mastered the most difficult lesson. What appears to be a lack of strength is actually a source of strength at times. In her mind, the architect can manage the course of evolution. The true meaning of adaptability can be demonstrated to her by us. Sam reviewed the data from the quantum facility once more while orders were sent and operations were ramped up. Over the course of several years, the architect had studied her techniques. It was time for her to demonstrate to her teacher just how much her student had learnt. Evolution as we knew it was about to start. The tactical display warned of an ongoing quantum facility breach as Sam made his way through the shadowy server room on his wheel. She led a group of 12 injured veterans through the complex in silence, hand-picked for their individual adaptations. No one had escaped the attention of the architect's recruiters. It was obvious to all of them that the offer was flawed. With a communicative tone, Sarah Chen commanded Team 2 to take position. Despite losing both arms in a crash, the former Air Force pilot was able to control surveillance drones through neural interfaces with unparalleled precision. She was able to detect several heat signatures in the major server center. Copy that? Sam examined her tactical screen. The building's design reflected her own battle modifications. Designed with wheelchair accessibility in mind, with entry points located at a comfortable height for chairs. The architect had used all the knowledge she had gained from researching Sam to construct this place. It was time to demonstrate that the lessons were incomplete. Hunter, please take the lead, Sam instructed. Thanks to an explosion, the ex-Marine had lost his hearing, but his other senses were heightened to a new level. He advanced forward, his prosthetic legs sending forth vibrations that could identify impending danger before any sensor could. The initial adversary appeared just where Sam had anticipated, a squad of guards employing her very own flanking strategies. Still, she had poured years into refining such techniques and discovering their limitations. Now, she muttered into the communicator. A former army sniper, Rachel, who had lost her right arm, sprung out of her wheelchair with all the grace of a spring. She removed the cosmetic covering from her prosthetic limb, revealing a mounted gun. Before the security team could react, 3 well-placed gunfire knocked them down. As they guarded the hallway, Rachel noticed that they were mimicking your previous methods without realizing the changes that had taken place. The architect thinks disability is something to engineer, Sam responded as he examined the fallen guards. To no one's surprise, they were all physically capable operators attempting to imitate strategies that had evolved out of necessity. The only way to truly adjust is from within, something she fails to comprehend. A power spike was detected in the servers ahead by the sensors in her chair. Quantum systems were getting ready for a major event by speeding up. Through her secure comm, Sam, Chen's voice cracked. We discovered the final goal of the architect. Cyber warfare isn't the only use for those technologies. They are studying data from handicapped soldiers all over the globe using evolutionary algorithms. She is not amassing a military force. By her actions, she hopes to propel humanity toward a new stage of military development. How? By making more individuals who are similar to us. With his tactical display converting the audio to text, Hunter questioned. Watching the data streams, Sam realized, no. Through highlighting the benefit of disability. They were all experiments, every damage, every adaptation she engineered. She's attempting to demonstrate that conventional militaries are no longer necessary. There was a fresh message on her phone. Impressive work, Samantha, but you haven't seen the whole picture just yet. Make your way to the command center. Witness evolution in action. The picture in the message stopped Sam in his tracks. Asleep on a medical gadget was Jenny, the proprietor of the Pine Valley Cafe. Her entire body was covered in sensors that fed data into the quantum computers. Volunteers are needed for the next stage. What the architect had to say persisted. Thankfully, your friend stepped in to lend a hand. Just 30 minutes to go before the surgery starts. Make a swift decision. The grips on Sam's chair grew increasingly firm. Sarah, show me how to make a blueprint. Discover an unanticipated path that leads to the control room for me. According to Sarah, who used her drones to sketch out security positions, they've covered all the obvious bases. Any object large enough to accommodate your chair is under surveillance. Sam beamed a gloomy grin. Who said I had to give up my chair? Parts of her tactical wheelchair were removed by her. Things like sensors, weapons, and medicine. Until they figured it out, her team watched bewildered. Rachel said, "You're going to show them what real adaptation looks like." He was serious. As Sam checked her equipment, she revealed that the architect had spent years researching her fighting style from this chair. She constructed the entire facility based on those assumptions, but she neglected to mention anything crucial. Then what is it? Sitting here isn't my birthright. Even before Afghanistan, I mastered the art of combat. Despite her lack of experience, she was able to occasionally free herself from the wheelchair by using her upper body power. Altering the regulations totally isn't always the best course of action. As he helped her with her gear distribution, Hunter beamed. Using the ventilation ducts and maintenance shafts to sneak in is something they'll never anticipate. Very much so. Rachel and Sarah, you are the stars in my sky. I will signal everyone else to get ready. When I get to the control room, I need to simultaneously hit all of the server nodes. Is the architect attempting to impose evolution on us? Let's demonstrate to her the strength of true survivors. Sam started her approach as her crew got into position. As she maneuvered through locations too tiny for any tactical squad, her years of honing alternate movement techniques came in handy. The architect's security system was designed to withstand operators who were confined to wheelchairs. The ability to abandon the chair was an essential component of genuine adaptation, which hadn't occurred to her. Your companion is really courageous. A voice from the corridor suddenly rose to the level of the architect. Pine Valley, and how she watched you act helpless for so long, is something she's been narrating to me. Our goals are crystal clear to her. Sam responded, "You're trying to play God," and she knew the architect could hear her. Making people less capable or requiring them to change their behavior, while in fact, that is not how evolution works. Isn't that so? Sam, take a good look at yourself. That IED was the beginning of all that you have been and all that you have accomplished. It was my present to you. No. Sam drew herself around a bend, drawing near the command center. Whatever it is that I evolved into thereafter, you took it from me. I evolved in that way, it was my choice. At this point, she could see Jenny via a ventilation grate. The medical equipment appeared eerily real, serving an obvious purpose. Once Sam realized this, he knew you were going to cripple her. The same way you treated me and everyone else. As I exalted you, I will elevate her as well, the architect corrected. Sacrifice is necessary for the next level of human military evolution. Just as Sam was about to signal her crew, something caused her to hesitate and grasp for her calm. Something about the architect's speech was too familiar. You're one of us, she said. You were able to determine the optimal location for the IED by just doing that. You knew what it was like. Everything was confirmed by the subsequent silence. The architect's research on handicapped soldiers had encompassed more than that. Sure enough, she was one. Moreover, Sam had just the solution to put a halt to her. Salutations, Samantha. Approaching from the front, the architect's words reached Sam as she dragged herself into the control room via the maintenance shaft. I was hoping you'd understand. Nobody was expecting the woman who stood next to Jenny's medical restraint table. The famed Delta Force operator, Colonel Rebecca Harris, was believed dead in action 10 years ago. Where her right arm ought to have been, her uniform sleeve bore an empty space, and beneath her fatigues shimmered a clever prosthetic limb. While settling behind a console, Sam recalled the mission that had lost you your limbs. It was deliberate. Great, Rebecca grinned. Similar to how I orchestrated your harm, I orchestrated this as well. Every loss was meticulously measured, and every adaptation was closely watched. The ideal laboratory for biological change. Fearful eyes widened as Jenny fought against her shackles. Now that its function was apparent, the medical equipment hummed menacingly. In order to compel the type of adaptation that Rebecca advocated for, it was engineered to induce certain types of trauma. When Sam saw you, he knew you were the experiment. The first person you hurt was yourself. I demonstrated the idea. Weak, reliant on flawless bodies and old-fashioned methods, we are the product of traditional military thought. But actual power? A flex of Rebecca's prosthetic fingers was seen. Converting vulnerability into strength is the path to true strength. Injuries inflicted on innocent bystanders will lead to a generation of crippled soldiers and further human development. The passion in Rebecca's voice soared. I was able to back up my theory with every single subject I chose and injury I created. No one proved that more convincingly than you, Samantha. Staying in Pine Valley for 3 years allowed you to develop fighting skills that no able-bodied operator could equal, all while letting people underestimate you. Now Sam's squad was in a good spot. The signals they were sending were visible on her tactical screen. She had to comprehend, for even a single phrase could set off their attack on the servers of the institution. Why Jenny specifically? What gives? Reason being, the next stage has arrived. Rebecca proceeded to the controls used in medicine. Personal development alone will not suffice. This is the wave of battles of the future, and we must demonstrate it. Think about it. Intensive special operations units, with each operator meticulously tailored for optimum response. Warriors like us won't have to wait for wounds sustained in battle to emerge. We shape, refine, and develop them. Dude, you're goofy. I am unstoppable. Quantum computers have shown it to be true. The result is the same in all of the simulations. Traditional forces are consistently outperformed by disabled operators. Unlike others, we can change our strategies on the go and come up with novel solutions. Our brokenness is the only thing preventing us from reaching our full potential. Rather than fleeing, Jenny rose to her feet and walked over to be by Rebecca's side as her bindings were abruptly unfastened. Sam, I apologize, Jenny whispered, but I agree with her. In the 3 years that I've known you, I've witnessed you transform your impairment into an asset. I desire that authority. Because of this evolution, I have chosen it. As Sam grasped the concept, her heart fell. Jenny remained free. Rebecca's warped reasoning had her recruited on the belief that purposeful incapacity was the key to climbing the corporate ladder. Simulations aren't the only thing that quantum systems do. Rebecca persisted. They find the best prospects and figure out the best adjustments. Jenny's surgery will be meticulously designed to maximize its potential, similar to how yours was. Does that mean you consider me to be your triumph? In order to face them head-on, Sam used the console to raise herself. The IED that severed my legs really fortified me in some way. Take stock of who you are and everything that you've achieved. I didn't become this because of you, but rather in spite of you. Anger and sadness were visible in Sam's voice. When you severed my legs, you did not bestow power upon me. You merely served to remind me of the inner power that I possessed. The part of evolution that eludes you in that regard is this. It is not an external factor. It is intrinsic. Right now, she keyed her car. At the same moment that Sam's squad struck, the facility descended into anarchy. Problems with the quantum systems, power fluctuations, and server crashes ensued. While Rebecca merely grinned. So you believe I had no contingency plans? Completely all of your strategies and tactics. You learned it all from me. You are mine. No. Finally, Sam's voice calmed down. Neither of us was forced. That was a huge error on your part. Then what is it? You were just as quick as everyone else to see my wheelchair as a vulnerability. Now I'll tell you the truth. I can beat you without it. Sam exhibited lightning-fast reflexes, a result of years of clandestine training. Despite the fact that Rebecca had trained to combat opponents who were wheelchair-bound, her prosthetic arm whirred as she countered. The ground-based combat technique Sam employed caught her off guard. It was a vicious and effective battle. Two wounded warriors, one with a disability and the other with a philosophy that is radically different from their own. Rebecca battled for the validation of her ideas regarding artificial evolution. Strength is a product of free will, not coercion, and Sam battled to demonstrate this. Neither technological nor tactical advantages were decisive in the final outcome of the conflict. A comprehension was achieved. The most fundamental premise of human evolution had slipped Rebecca's mind while she laboriously sought to perfect it. Need, not design, dictates when adaptation is necessary. While lying down, with her prostheses deactivated, Rebecca gazed up at Sam with a sense of awe. I anticipated every possible outcome and did the math. You failed precisely because of that. Sam fastened her harness. Being true to one's plan isn't what evolution is all about. Discovering your unique journey is the key. As reality struck in, Jenny stood quaking nearby, her reliance on Rebecca beginning to wane. A deepest apologies, Sam. She had my trust. Her delivery was just flawless. Yes, I am aware. It was a soft voice from Sam. Because it can be more convenient to assume that other people already have the answers than to actually seek them out. Now the facility was safe. The fact that real adaptation may take different forms was demonstrated by Sam's group of wounded soldiers. Sam watched as federal officials rushed the facility, his eyes fixed on the quantum computers that had attempted to mathematically represent human evolution. The true evolution, do you know? Beresford inquired as the agents escorted her away. It's not about gaining strength by enduring harm. Finding the strength that was always there is the central theme. You need just make the decision to seek it out. Sam remained seated in her wheelchair for several hours after the cleanup crews dismantled the architect's business, as the sun peeked over the mountains. Reluctantly, Jenny walked over. If you knew, how? She wanted to know if I was collaborating with her. I guess it's because you no longer perceive me as fragile. Sam beamed a weary grin. True myself, not my disguise. Like she did, you began to see the handicap as a benefit. However, the objective was never that. Why was it even necessary? Our infirmity does neither diminish our strength or diminish it. We simply are what we are. Our ability to persevere depends on how we decide to face adversity. As the helicopters came to take Rebecca to a safe place, Sam pondered the concept of evolution, the genuine kind. The chaotic, uncertain path of becoming one's true self, rather than the manufactured perfection that Rebecca had yearned for. Neither the wheelchair nor its use were her strengths or weaknesses. She had already decided how to adjust her journey to this new reality, so it was just a natural part of her journey.
Disclaimer. This channel stands against all forms of intolerance, discrimination, racism, and violations of human rights. The stories shared here are original creations, developed to encourage reflection, understanding, and constructive dialogue. All content is produced with a commitment to respecting diversity and honoring human dignity.